Brian Pritchard, FYNnews.com. I'm here today with the 11th District House of Representatives, Rick Jasperse. Representative Jasperse, House Bill 512. You introduced it on the floor. How long have you been working on this bill?
At least since December. And it came about, it's like I told people on the floor that day, in a ride with I share Gordon County with Chairman Meadows, John Meadows from Calhoun, and we were just driving around, I think to Rome, but one particular day in October, and we started talking about, the Second Amendment and what had happened a little bit in the last session, and trying to see if we could work together and expand and improve people's Second Amendment rights in Georgia. And it just kind of talked for a couple of months. In December, we really started working on it.
The House bill is called Safe Carry Protection Act, and let me give you my understanding of the bill, and tell me where I'm at on this. My understanding of the bill, what I've read and what I understand, is it will return private property rights to, for example, we'll say a bar owner. It'll return to private property rights to the churches. It will return private property rights to citizens. And that's more where the safe carry permit comes in. Am I hitting it wrong? Where am I at on that?
You're right. If you look in our bill, the very first section talks about private property and your ability as a private property owner to ask someone to leave. And then if they don't, you can use a criminal trespass statute to enforce that leaving. And that's an improvement in that code section that's really important, because you, as a private property owner, it's yours. I think that's the bedrock of America, and what we have is the ownership of private property and what we can do with it and what we can't. And we want to do more and improve people's ability to say, hey, Brian, I don't want you here. You need to leave. Well, if you defy me and won't, then I can call the sheriff, police, whomever, and you can leave.
Well, let me elaborate on that. Let me use a church, for example. My understanding of the bill is it will return the private property rights to a church to make that decision on their own. And the one thing I want to get some clarity on is if and when the bill passes and the governor signs it, everybody just can't go and wear the gun to church the next day. Am I correct? Like if there's a deacon board or an elder board, or however the church is structured, if they come together and their decision is we would not like firearms on the property, they could post signs and ask you nicely not to bring your firearms. It's returning it to them to make the decision?
Absolutely. And I think when we were working on this bill, I have one of my daughters and I were talking about it, and it just made it real clear to me that what does the state of Georgia, the big state of Georgia, have to do with anything that goes on inside of a house of worship? And that includes this part of having a weapon. That should be the church's decision entirely. And I know a lot of people like to hide behind it, let the state decide for us, but really that's a church by church decision, and they will be able to either do nothing or do something, but that's their decision.
Let's go into two of the what may be the more difficult things, and I know you're in committee right now with the bill, so I'd like to hear a little about that. I interviewed this past week Superintendent of Schools of Gilmer County and discussed this law with him. Mm-hmm. Now, the public safety officer, now schools now have a public resource officer, a lot of them, but it's different than that. It would be a public safety officer. And what their understanding is, so I bring it to you, is, and mine also, is they do not have to reveal who's in the school that's been named the public safety officer. They can go into the school system can decide for themselves whether they want to do it or not. It's not mandatory, correct?
Yeah, let's clarify. This is one part of the bill that we all call Representative Battles' bill. And Representative Battles worked through the summer trying to figure out a way that school systems that do not have the luxury that we have, I just here in Pickens County, for instance, the Sheriff's Department having resource officers in most of the schools. There are some school systems in the state of Georgia that can't afford it. And so what this bill does is allow the school system, if they choose to designate someone in a school to be a person who could have a weapon there to protect the school. But it's absolutely voluntary. And even the person, let's say in that school they couldn't find someone to volunteer to do it, they can't make them. They can't be punitive toward them. So and the school board has to determine training requirements and all the stuff that goes along with it in the bill. That's the beauty of it. It's for systems that can't afford it.
But this decision does go back to the local boards today.
Absolutely.
It doesn't. It's not Atlanta's decision on the local boards to do. It's their decision that they now would have the right to do. But the one question that came to me is they would not have to reveal who that individual is in the school.
Absolutely.
Because obviously I think for some safety matters, if you knew a custodian or somebody who it was, then obviously you would know who to focus on if you were attacking or whatever. Absolutely. Or something like that. But what about the other side of a parent that says, I don't want my child to go to a school and not know who's carrying the gun? What about that side of the coin? Are you getting a lot of questions on that? Is there a lot of pressure on that?
No, none. There's none really. I've had a few questions that have asked that, but not really. But I do understand that part of it. But and that's why it's a school board decision. I mean, so when this decision comes up in public meetings that a school board will have to make, they'll address that there. I mean, and that, I think that's the beauty of that part of this bill. It is local control. And if the community decides that, oh, we don't want to do that, the school board won't do it.
What about, and not to keep going on this because it did come up the other day in my interview, a concern is, what about the student in the high school that pulls a prank with a fake gun or something just to see if they can, there was a concern that a prank could go bad and this could go bad. So those kind of concerns.
We can make up scenarios to scare people in any of these situations. What this does and what this entire bill does is enable people to protect themselves. And that could happen today. That little scenario you brought up about a prank could happen today in the school. Could happen in any of our schools. And, you know, I think kids are smarter than that. I think we train them to be smarter than that. And I guess I just don't, all the scenarios to scare people, I just don't follow them.
Let's go to college campuses. I spoke to a couple colleges this past week, and the comment I got strongly from one college was their position is the current law as it is works, and we feel we're a safety institution. Now, it's not my place to ever read into anything representative, and it would be unfair, but every time I went to the question, their statement was the current law as it is works. The only thing that could say to me is they don't feel we need the current law. What is the opposition to the colleges and universities in the state? What are you doing to meet their concerns?
Well, it is, if there is one part of this bill that's the most contentious, it is that one. And our argument or our discussion on this is that we're not so much concerned like if this table we're sitting at is the college campus. It is that part of it. In some cases across the United States an issue, but it's the edge. It's the perimeter of the area where students of all sorts walk into parking lots. They walk from parking lot to class. They walk from outside of the perimeter of the school, from apartments to classes. And that area and that fringe all the way around the campus is a gun-free zone. And you can look at it the way I tend to look at it and do look at it, is that's a criminal empowerment zone where those criminals know that those students are defenseless. They are absolutely defenseless. And when we heard testimony in committee, over and over again, the public safety at the schools, whom I have no problem with, in that zone of their protection, said we can be anywhere in a few minutes. Now, Brian, we could stop and just sit here in quiet for a few minutes and let people know how long that is. and how long and what can happen in a few minutes. And that's the issue. And it's the students who are coming in and out of campus who are unprotected. And that's who we're concerned about. And that's the major part of it. Now, occasionally there's going to be something that will happen in a classroom, like it's happened in Virginia and other places. And there are colleges in the United States where firearms are allowed. It is not like they've never been allowed in schools. Georgia changed this law in the early 90s to become a gun-free zone. It's not like it's brand new. It's not like in 1948 it was a gun-free zone. It's in the 90s. So prior to 92, did we have all the issues that the scare people are trying to say? Absolutely not. But my concern is the citizens of Georgia. And at some point, Brian, you have to stand up for the Constitution and say, the Second Amendment does mean something, and it has power and influence, and those people who are in the areas, whether it be churches and bars or going into random government buildings across the state, does the Second Amendment mean anything and have influence in the state of Georgia?
Well, what is are you aware of what is going on in committee right now where that's concerned? Is there how much is this bill changing from what
it's changing some? And that's the neat thing about the process in the legislature. Myself and my other group of co-sponsors and writers, we met, we came up with a bill. We've had it in front of 3 committees now and full House vote, and everybody's looked at it and gave us a lot of options and opinions, and we've changed a lot of things. Not a lot, maybe 6 or 8 little words here, ideas there, to try to make it fit where other people looked at it. That's the beauty of the legislative process. And it doesn't hurt my feelings that somebody says, hey Rick, you put this right here, the unintended consequence of these 3 words is this. I go, oh my gosh, didn't know that. So you got to change, you got to fix it. But that's the beauty of the process. And because there's a lot of people looking at it, a lot of people vote, a lot of people trust you to do the right thing.
Did you sit down with the state university system when you crafted the bill to work on this, and what was their input?
Absolutely, yes. We repeatedly went to the Board of Regents and their people at the Capitol and said, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to do something to allow campus carry and let our citizens who, are misdescribed, I don't know what the right word was, misdescribed that this is a fraternity house atmosphere. It's not. You've got to be 21 years old to have a concealed weapons license. And you've got to be responsible. It's just, you've got to have your background check. And that's why we've left out fraternity and sorority houses. All residence halls, all sporting events are off limits to weapons license carriers. But we went to the Board of Regents repeatedly and said, hey, help us. Give us some ideas. They gave us nothing. Absolutely nothing but a letter signed by all college presidents and technical schools saying, we don't want to do anything. So they don't want to do anything for the people that are on that perimeter, coming in and out every day, going in and out. We have a lot of non-traditional students now who come into school at 6 o'clock at night and go to their car at 9:30 at night. Now, but they're saying nothing. We don't want to budge, do nothing. A lot of states allow campus carry right now, including California, of all states.
Well, let me ask you, in the committee right now, are they talking with you now, or is
no.
it still just
it's still a no.
Just a solid no from the university?
And here's the problem. The universities in their compromise, I think, coming from me, what I hear, is they want to allow opt-in. Okay? That would say that a university could opt in to campus carry if they want to. Well, Brian, I got a signed letter by every university president, I think all of them, and technical college president saying, we don't want it. So why would we accept an amendment to House Bill 512 that says we want to allow opt-in? I mean, they're not going to opt in. And so it's a futile attempt. It's it's disputed.
Well, while we're on the college campus subject, let me bring up. I spoke with the sheriff of one of the counties this past week, and his comments were that he did support the bill. He supported the bill, and I have that in an interview. His concern in the bill was the firearms in the car. And today, if you go to a big parking lot, the percentage of knowing how many firearms are in a car is one number. But after the bill passes and you can lock the firearm in your car, you can't take it in the dormitory or whatever the case may be. This individual is concerned that it would escalate in a number of robberies. He said that is a problem, that people go looking for guns and they break into cars and they look for guns. So obviously that's happening now, but it was just a concern that would escalate knowing that they were in the car.
Well, Brian, under current law today, you can have your weapon in your car. Now, on a college campus, in a technical school, anywhere, it's an extension of your home. So you can have a weapon in your car now in Georgia, on a college campus and anywhere today.
So you can drive in with it today as long as it doesn't come out. You can leave it in there, go to class, and come back out today without change. Okay.
Absolutely. So, and that's what I found. The code section where all of our firearms stuff is in section 16. Holy cow! It's pages long. It is so confusing. I mean, it probably took me 2 weeks of reading it and kind of going back and forth over it so I could get continuity in my brain of exactly what I was trying to do, and when I moved something here, what it would do over there. And even with the attorneys that we have access to in the house, it's a very complex code because people have added little things over the years, added here and added there and taken away here, and it's pretty intense. And there's a lot of misinformation that's out there.
Well, let me a couple quick things, and I know you need to wrap this up. But what about let's call it a bar owner or somebody who has an establishment? How does that bill work there? There's the feeling that after the bill passes, you can, Friday night go out and take your gun with you and go anywhere you want. Clear that up for me.
Oh, that one's very easy. What's the current law today? That's the question. I mean, so the current law today, not including any bill that's in the House right now, is the bar owner can, if they choose, allow Georgia weapons license holders to bring their weapon in if they choose to today.
So this bill really doesn't change anything?
This bill doesn't change anything. It just gets it out of the code. So, and those people who can today, that's really what's called opt-in. The bar owner, whatever. And so the real issue is the definition of a bar. I think at one time, we all in our imagination and idea have this idea that a bar is just a place where they eat. But now you've got restaurants, all this. So the idea of what a bar is very vague. But the bar owner now can just say, have a sign up or not. Weapons license. People with a weapons license can come in if they choose to. And so we feel it's a private property issue, and that the insurance companies and the bar owners and people will figure that out, who can and who can't. But right now, we don't have this issue of Friday night gunfights. But see, that's a scare tactic that the people who are against really Second Amendment rights are using. It's just they try to scare people that all these bad things are going to happen. When you really get to looking at it, there are guns on campuses right now in people's cars. Bar owners can't allow that right now. Churches, there are guns in the cars around the church, but we need to let them choose. And so it kind of gets into the scare that's out there with people and there are people who are afraid of them. And I recognize that. There are people who don't want them. But Brian, in the end of this thing, we're looking at people's Second Amendment rights, not a driver's license privilege. This is a Second Amendment right. And at some point, you got to stand up and be for it. And I think that's what you see the legislators, the people that voted for 512, say, hey, we're for people's Second Amendment rights in Georgia.
Representative, you have the votes for this?
Yes.
You feel
I
good?
get it on the floor. I got the votes for it.
You got the floor. When's it coming out of the Senate?
Well, we'll have a Senate committee meeting on Wednesday, and there will be amendments I've already heard to attempt to change it some. And yeah, I have to do my best to fight them off and be prepared for that, and I will. Then it'll be probably on Monday or Tuesday next week.
The governor's floor leader, what are you hearing out of the governor's office? What's their opposition, or what's their, did they have any opposition to this? Is the governor, how's he looking at this?
Well, I know the governor would like the opt-in on college campuses. And there's a few other changes I think we're making or may make to accommodate Governor Deal. But we're pretty stuck on campus carry. I mean, I think it's a very big issue, and we do disagree with the governor at this moment on that.
So you wanted to come out with the campus carry still intact?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you want to send it to the governor that way, and
yes, sir.
You'd like to ask the governor to sign it that way?
Absolutely.
But at this time, that's sticky for him?
It is.
Okay, all right.
And that's the political process. And people say, oh, last night when I was out eating, people said, oh my, and I said, well no, that's what this is about. That's the great thing about America. It really is. I mean, I'm not offended by that or hurt, but this is the struggle. I mean, we want bills that really affect people's lives to be tough. We want them to be examined and questioned and really worked on, because they do affect people's lives. So I've never, while I've been in the legislature, been offended to ask, if you're the legislator, why are you trying to do this, and vote against it if I feel the people in the 11th district up here in our neck of the woods would be against it. We're not. I think that's the beauty of the process. That's what I like about it.
I listened to the opposition in the well that afternoon, and in the opposition, you don't feel in any way this would escalate any gun violence, and the current statistics now of gun violence, you don't feel would change based on this law in any way?
Not a bit. And I guess because Brian, you go back to the campus carry idea, or church, or wherever. Why are we allowing the criminals who don't care, who do not care about any law that we create, to have power over the citizens who are rule followers? You can see my passion coming out. I'm getting there. But because most of the people like myself, and we're our rule followers. We get a license. We read up where can we go, where we can't. But we're empowering criminals who could care less about what all these things say to have power over the rule followers. And that's wrong.
Well, most of the opposition that I heard that day that came in the well, that came up to speak, actually all the opposition, if I remember, started out in some form or fashion clearing up that they were for Second Amendment rights, and they were for the Second Amendment, but they're in opposition. Would you differ with their comment? Would you? And I'm not asking you to say, well, I don't think they believe in the Second Amendment, or would you differ coming to the well and saying, classifying yourself, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, but
you see me kind of grinning, early in my marriage to my beautiful wife, Marcia, I learned what the word but means. And I can say, oh, I like that, but. And I think Marcia, very wise woman, explained to me over the period of maybe 2 or 3 years of beating into my head what but means. And the Second Amendment's one of those things that, or any of the Constitution, or you're either in or you're out usually. And you have qualifiers for anything that I'm for, but this is one of those things that really calls the line. I mean, are you for people's right to bear arms. And in the Georgia Constitution, it adds a little bit to it, that the General Assembly shall have the right to determine how those arms or weapons are borne. That means carried or used. And that's our role in this thing. So, you know, they are. So back to the real question, I think they're sincere in that, but fear plays a lot into this. Politics plays a lot into this. I mean, where you are determines sometimes, and who your constituency is determines how you vote. Well, you know, that's okay, because that's the American thing. But on this one, you know, for me, it's about a month ago, and I was talking to one of the national news media things about it. It just hit me that this issue on Second Amendment, your ability to carry weapons, whatever, you have to stand up for the Second Amendment, and you got to be sincere, but you got to stand up for it and be confident that that's the right thing to do and not be afraid. And I think that really helped me a month and a half ago to be able to say that, yeah, I'm for it. But let's just need to diverge a little bit. There are some groups who oppose House Bill 512 because, Brian, they feel it doesn't go far enough. You know, they would like to have what's called constitutional carry. They should be able to carry anywhere. And they're opposing this bill because it does not go far enough. So, you know, you got, and I think what I learned a long time ago is legislation is what's possible. You know, not exactly what you want, because like we talked about in our interview, there's a lot of different people involved, 180 House members, 50-something senators, the governor, all the different people involved. You can only do what's possible with the agreement of the majority of both of those houses. And that's what we've tried to do with 512, is find as far to the Second Amendment improving as we could get and still get a bill passed and signed. I mean, we pushed the edge. And you can see, just like in our conversation today, we have pushed the edge. Because when you have the most powerful person in Georgia, I feel, and our friend, Governor Deal, saying, hey, you're kind of pushing it too far here, you know, I think we're doing a good job with it.
Anything today that we didn't cover or push on or get out that you feel we need to talk about?
No, sir, I don't think so. I appreciate the time.
We went all the way around.
Getting to talk with you.